Hey everybody, my name is Mike, and I am a third-year economics major here to talk to you about the dangers of the Kony 2012 campaign. Now I know a lot of you are really stoked on it, and it has definitely taken the social media world by storm. But before you jump onto this latest fad charity bandwagon, I'd like you to consider a few things about the group leading the project, Invisible Children, and the dangers involved in the manner which they intend to correct the devastating situation Uganda currently faces. First, consider where your money goes whenever you decide to donate to the Invisible Children campaign. As pointed out over at www.visiblechildren.tumblr.com, to which I am not in any way associated with except through opinion, Invisible Children is a registered, not-for-profit organization, and thus its finances are available for public scrutiny. The records show that of the $8,676,614 the organization spent last year, 32% went to direct services. This means that of the near $9 million you helped donate to Invisible Children last year alone, only $3 million was used to directly help the cause. The rest of it was spent on staff salaries, travel, transport, and film production. Combine this data with the fact that Invisible Children lacks an external audit committee. So in reality, the amount directly spent on aiding children was probably a lot less than that $3 million. So before you shell out your life savings to Invisible Children, just be aware that most of your dough is going directly into the pockets of those heading the organization to foster their own filmmaking careers, not to the people in need. Second, I ask you to recall your high school history courses. In the late 1950s, Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and their respective military-esque forces invaded Cuba with hopes of making it a better place. However, once Castro came into power with the help of the United States, he used his communist rule to expropriate private property rights, nationalize public utilities, and condemn groups of people like homosexuals and religious practitioners he claimed needed re-education. It is estimated that throughout his rule, he and his regime have executed anywhere from 15,000 to 17,000 people, some publicly. In essence, the U.S. unintentionally caused a country that once had great economic potential to effectively become more oppressed than it was before. Now you may be asking yourself what Cuba's unfortunate history has to do with the Kony 2012 project. The answer is this. Invisible Children plans to extract Kony from power using the same methods Castro utilized back in the late 50s. With support from the U.S., the organization will mobilize the Ugandan military, who have themselves been reported as being looters and rapists, as well as the American army, to overthrow Kony's oppressive regime and will more likely put, as the U.S. has done over and over again throughout its history, a dictator in power that in the long run will either keep things the same or more likely make it worse. In the words of George Santayana, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So before you go throwing your money at Invisible Children, know that by doing so, you're probably, in the long run, contributing to worse conditions in Uganda than better. This brings me to my last point. While the intentions of the Invisible Children project are undeniably good, they will ultimately be yet another nation-building asset for the United States. If any of you have read Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, you know exactly where I'm going with this. In case you didn't know, the United States has a really bad habit of lending ridiculous amounts of financial aid to poor countries, knowing full well that they will never get the money back. In place of money, the poor countries offer the U.S. access to their valuable resources and likewise grant special privileges to the U.S. military, such as access and stationing. While this may initially seem fair to some of you, such a system has really devastating results, especially for the poor country. First, the poor country comes under the control of the U.S. through financial and political force, and thus it cannot grow economically and freely as it is under constant scrutiny, which effectively ruins the poor country's chances of success in the long run. The poor country, in essence, becomes our puppet. Second, this allows the United States to continue its international conquest to spread itself all over the world, as it has in Afghanistan, Iraq, Korea, you name it. This action is known as nation building, and it ultimately leads to unfair economic competition around the world while simultaneously increasing our already ridiculous, tremendous national debt. Now consider this. If the U.S. government works hand in hand with Invisible Children, It will not need to offer Uganda immense financial loans using the public debt. Instead, it has your money and security to offer it, garnered through millions of well-intentioned donators giving to invisible children. If this doesn't make sense to you yet, let me make this perfectly clear. Donating to invisible children and the Kony 2012 project grants our government the ability to nation build, increase the debt, and ultimately ruin Uganda in the long run at your expense. By donating, you are providing an incentive for our government to continue on its financially unsustainable path, and furthermore promote a worse-off situation for the Ugandan people in favor of our own country's financial and economic interests. To conclude, let me be really clear about something. I used to advocate for the Invisible Children organization, and I contributed financially to it through benefit concerts I helped organize. Why? Because it was able to help a large amount of people without dependency on our ineffective government. But now I must renounce my support for Invisible Children, for it is now turning into a tool to promote our own government's interests at the expense of the well-being of our foreign brothers and sisters, as well as the population of the United States. Remember, guys, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So before you decide to send half of your paycheck to Invisible Children, consider everything I've said in this video. Also, if you agree with me, please share it. Facebook, Twitter, wherever you can. We need to get this message out. Don't support Kony 2012 and don't support Invisible Children. Instead, let's come up with new, better solutions that won't ruin the United States or Uganda in the long run. Thanks for watching.